We have a very special guest in State of the Game this week. She is the best-selling author of How to End a Love Story. She's also adapting Emily Henry's Beach Read into a movie, which she's also going to be directing for 20th. She is a Bachelor superfan. Please welcome to the show, Yulin Kuang.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited to have you.
Dang, writer, director, and Bachelor superfan? A triple threat?
Well, it's hard to, I don't know if I identify as a Bachelor superfan in the same way that I'm like, I don't know if I identify so much as a Swiftie as I am a fan of Taylor Swift's music, because
Okay,
I don't engage in the extracurriculars. You know, there's all the Easter eggs.
I totally understand.
And in the Bachelor franchise, there's
Yeah.
kind of this entire second life that the show has online, you know, where it's all these things.
Oh,
and
yes.
and that I just don't have the time for it, guys.
So you haven't watched Devin's
I am the
13
same way
minute
about
video?
Taylor Swift. She is my most listened to artist, but I don't know like who all the songs are about or the lore.
It's
fine.
we all got a lot going on, you know.
Of course.
I'm like, they're about me. What are you talking about? They're about my life.
No, that just means you're a Bachelor purist. You only imbibe the document itself. What the media is
I
that
try
is-
to stick to the text, yes.
Yeah.
I've had my like seasons where I'm more in it and seasons
Of
where I'm
course.
less in it. Like I watched it way back in the day. Like I think I remember watching.
Yeah, when did you start?
I think I watched Trista's season like when I was but a small child, like sitting watching appointment television. And then I think the next time I came in as an adult, it was with Ben Higgins's season.
Okay.
And I was
A big
like
gap.
in it then. And I think I was riveted by JoJo. I still remember Luke and that like airport like break. Oh my God, my heart. There was Rachel Lindsay. And then I actually went to a taping of After the Final Rose for Ari. I think you like see me at the top of one of the commercials,
Oh my
wow.
like, whispering to my friend.
That was a historic After the Final Rose.
Yeah.
You saw the first time that proposal happened
it
to
was
the second choice for wife on the show.
Yes, it was very dramatic. And then I fell off. So I got really into like Love Island UK around 2018. And then I took a kind of like pretty lengthy break from reality dating shows in general. And I tuned back in specifically for Jen because, you know, she's the first Bachelorette.
Well,
and so I just don't want to call myself a Bachelor super fan because I don't know that is accurate.
Yeah, you've only labeled like 10 seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I want to.
Since you were a small child,
You're like, I'm not a Bachelor super fan, but if you do go to the Ari Lyndike After the Final Rose and scroll through to minute 7, second 42, you will see me for exactly 16 frames. And
I think it's like the third commercial break.
Yeah.
Okay,
we call those portions.
I do have
the
a
third
question.
Portion.
Back to the Ari Lyndike After the Final Rose. Did you have any idea what was going on? Did you know that he was broken up with Kufrin at that point?
I think there were like rumblings. I remember there being something in the atmosphere at the time if you were like extremely plugged in. Because, you know, you could go on to like, was it Reality Steve or something?
Sure.
Like you could find out spoilers. And I have always been a big fan of spoilers because I think that when you know the ending of something, you can see the seeds of it going into it. And that always makes for a very compelling second watch for a lot of things. But, you know, time is a valuable resource of which we have a finite amount. And so sometimes I would just seek out spoilers so that I could watch the entire thing the first time around that way.
Only one time.
And I don't know that I did that with Ari's season exactly, but I do feel like I was paying a little bit more attention to what was the conversation was.
Now you're a novelist, you're a screenwriter, you're a director. Do you find that your interest in reality TV, specifically reality dating TV, has informed any of the stuff that you're working on in the scripted world?
I think it informs a lot for sure. Like I think what the reality dating world does so well is it shows us something that does feel real. Like I think people who are skeptical.
It feels real to me and most of Bachelor Nation.
Sometimes it feels like a little bit Okay, what am I trying to say? I have friends who are very skeptical of reality dating shows, and I understand why, because to them it all feels very scripted, it feels false.
Sure.
And I think we live in a time where people are kind of skeptical. We're all very like savvy about social media and how these things can change people's lives, and we hear things like, "Oh, are you here for the right reasons?" and all those things. But I think the thing that keeps me coming back often is that these people aren't actors, you know. Sometimes you watch them like try and sell a commercial at the ad breaks, or like sell like,
Yeah.
oh wow, I'm so excited to see Wicked. And you're like, you're not an
Maybelline products.
that's this is not what you do, you know. You are
Yeah.
a real person. And so what it is it's staged, not scripted. And it's kind of a social experiment, right? It's like it's taking these people, and if we create these conditions, what will happen? I'm the daughter
Yeah.
of scientists, and so reality dating fascinates me from a sociological
Sure.
experiment kind of angle. And when I look at how I'm using it in my own writing, it's not like a one-to-one. I'm not like pulling this,
Sure.
but I think it does inspire, you know, like
Of
sometimes you'll
course.
watch things and you'll be like, oh my God, that gut-wrenching feeling. Like, yeah, let me inject a little bit of that into Act 3.
Yeah. I mean,
So, as a daughter of a scientist, how did you feel watching this season, coming back in after a break?
Coming back, oh man, it's a little bit like if we're talking about the zoom out a little bit, I do it did feel a little bit like watching a dinosaur in the world, you know, because when we first came to the Bachelor franchise with like Trista and all of them, like it was this it it was kind of revolutionary. Like I remember it being revolutionary. These are real people. Oh my God. And then I think when I fell off and I discovered Love Island, that was because it was presenting something that felt very new and young and fresh, and that was so interesting. And so when I came back to it, there was a part of me that was excited because there was a nostalgia to it. There's something almost like very old-fashioned about the way the Bachelor is structured, where it's still selling, you know, it's not just selling dating and romance, it's selling like love and matrimony. Like Neil Lane comes out and there you pick out a diamond. Like it's so old-fashioned and old school in a way that's like almost punk rock. We're almost there, you know. I'm like, that's
It's gone all the way
Yeah.
back around.
It's so aggressive. Right? It's progressive.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
And then you're watching all these people, and you have to imagine most of them at this point know that what they could do with their platform, right? And that's why I always find it a little bit difficult to watch the first couple weeks, because it's like we got to separate the like wheat from the chaff a little bit.
Interesting.
And it's at once I remember having this feeling of like I was glad to be in a place where I had a protagonist again, because when you watch like the Love Island shows, that format, it's like 7 people, like 14 people or something like that, all these couples, I don't know who's going to stay, I don't know who's going to go, and it's hard to kind of find a person to root for, whereas we come here and it's about Jen, it's Jen's story. And that's who I'm following. And so that's who I'm invested in. And so that's why when people do wrong by her, I'm so angry. I am furious. And when people are wasting her time, I'm like, get out of here. And so I really had a hard time getting invested, to be honest, until like episode 6. Like, I think that was when I was first like sitting up a little bit.
Last game of the regular season, just before playoffs.
Did you hear any of the, you know, the super fan online stuff about any of the guys during the season?
I think I saw like some cursory things, but I didn't retain them. I think I have since
That's
seen
healthy.
Devin has released some texts, which I don't agree with.
That was going to be one of our next questions.
I also don't like how it's been shoved in my face. You know, I open Reddit and my phone is listening to me. It knows I'm going to be on this podcast. So it's like, would you like to see some texts from like Devin's cell phone? And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So I've seen something, yes. But I haven't gone looking. It's like I stuck out a hand into a river stream and caught a trout.
Let me ask you this. Like, as somebody who also makes movies and makes media, you understand the behind the camera angle of it. we at Game of Roses, or myself, I guess, I've been coaching players to infiltrate the game for the past 3 years and use game strategy to achieve pretty high levels of success. So I'm very aware of how the show is structured.
Do you mean like you've been coaching contestants onto The Bachelor?
Right.
And they've done pretty well.
Yeah. Using Lizzie and I wrote a book called How to Win the Bachelor that essentially is kind of like the Moneyball of Bachelor. So we watched every season and extrapolated from it this kind of statistical data to form strategies. And then we were like, can we really apply this? The answer is yes, we can. And so part of that strategy is learning how to kind of subtly manipulate the producers so you can control your own edit, control how the show is built around you. And in Gen Trans season, we saw a moment where I think most average viewers are not aware that anything's going on behind the scenes. They think all this is real. But there was a moment in Gen Trans finale when the producers chose to air her proposal after they had done the hot seats. So we watched her and Devin have these conversations where he just kind of broke her down. She was sobbing. Then the producers decide, let's show this now. And I think that moment kind of cut through the general audience into like a larger vocabulary of media literacy, basically, because most people online were like, how could the producers do that to her? Do you think in reality TV, we're entering, and maybe specifically because of that moment, we're entering a time when the general audience kind of understands more about how these things are made and that they're not real, that it's mainly pro wrestling going on here?
I think there is a higher level of media literacy, of savviness generally. I mean, clearly you guys are doing your part, right? And I think there is this awareness of the artifice of it, but then also there has to be some grain of something real. Otherwise, we wouldn't keep coming back, right?
Totally.
Yes. So yeah, I think the audiences are much more savvy now, and I think that has to impact how the producers are kind of playing the game and playing us.
Yeah, maybe.
How do you think Chad did coaching Devin?
How dare you?
Did you coach Devin?
No comments. Listen,
I don't know, but
I can only say this. This is the deal I make with everybody I coach. I'll never reveal that I coach them. They're free to do so at their choosing, but I'll never reveal this information. And by omitting anyone, by saying I didn't coach that person, you could infer what you will. So I can't say yes or no. My apologies.
Oh, man.
Who do you think edited that 13-minute video and said, this is perfect?
I don't like, what is the goal of somebody getting onto The Bachelor in 2024?
There are myriad goals. Depends on who your lead is. But this is a question. This is the final intake question that I ask all players. I say, why do you want to do this? And tell me the honest truth. What you're going to tell the producers is going to be something different probably. And I will script that for you. But
what do they tell you? I'm so curious.
Everything from I literally want to marry this man and have his babies to I want to be the next bachelorette, get 5 million Instagram followers and never look back. And everything in the middle. Most commonly, it's I think the experience will be fun and I want to be an influencer. That's most common. And I think that that's true of like you're seeing with Harry Jowsey, speaking of, a Too Hot to Handle or a Love Island or whatever. He very openly says, I have created a character that I use in all of these reality shows. All of it is fake and you love it. And he's got whatever 3 point whatever million Instagram followers. He's one of the biggest male dating game stars on the planet. And I think we're entering that.
He's a natural. He applied with a bunch of different applications with different personalities and interests and stuff.
That's so interesting.
The game of reality TV, specifically dating reality TV, I think we're starting to see this new era, in my opinion, of like elite professional players. Even if you watch like Love is Blind UK, everybody on it owns a gym, works out twice a day, has an 8-pack, all of that. And on Love Island season 6, I'm watching that right now. All they talk about, USA, sorry. All they talk about is whether they like Ed Sheeran, how much avocado they want on their toast, and how many times they work out a day. The whole thing now, in my opinion, is like elite professional athlete level, perfect physical specimen players of this game who only want to become influencers and reality stars. And to me, that's like the best era of it.
Well, I think everybody has something to promote, which means everybody has something to gain and win from the platform, right? And I think when you enter when you enter it from that angle, everybody here is a rational player. They're in it for themselves. And then it really is trying to find love in a hopeless place. And that's the main part of The Bachelor when they sell a good story, like a good season for us, right? Is they're selling me on this idea that even though I know and you know all of these people are here for, if not the wrong reasons, they're here for ulterior motives. And like love is maybe just a byproduct. And then if they can actually get them there to that place by the finale, then that's a small miracle of chemistry.
Small miracle of chemistry are forced by producers. I mean,
but babies do happen.
That's true.
The
miracles do happen. We have some married couples, but primarily these shows, every season of Bachelor is cast with like 30-ish people. Producers
Trista
really
has 2 kids.
Yeah, Trista has some.
She's married to that
Sean
bucket
Lowe
hat
has
man.
some.
Oh my God.
Mesnick. These seasons are cast primarily with like the producers want maybe 5 viable candidates. The other 25 they don't care about. They're there to be fools and villains and get wrapped up in rivalries and all that. So even the math metrics of it are like, shouldn't they cast 30 people that are viable contenders and let the drama unfold as she falls in love with all of them? No, they never do that because they have this kind of old school, like you're saying, watching a dinosaur. That show specifically has this old school mentality of like, nope, this is how we did it since 2002. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this ship will go down with network TV as we watch it swirl the drain. But do you think?
But in some ways, they do have a responsibility to cast like multiple types of people, even if the person only goes for one type of person, because you want everybody who's watching it to be rooting for someone and to identify with someone. And you want someone that everyone can connect with.
Yeah, I agree with that. Do you think that this season of Bachelorette has done irreparable damage to the franchise? Or do you think we turn the page and no one cares?
I don't know, because here's the thing. I think that my experience watching The Bachelor, or not watching The Bachelor rather, over the last couple years is reflective of the franchise doing itself in. I've been bored. The only reason I tuned in was because I saw Jen, and I am not so cynical that I won't be caught by like, oh man, like that's somebody whose world looks like mine. Like I remember the very first episode of Jen's when we saw her friends and family. I was like, this is a feeling I haven't had watching The Bachelor before. And so I don't think it did damage in that sense, but I do think that unless it evolves a little bit more, then I'm watching a species go slowly extinct before my eyes. So I don't think it's done.
Are you still watching Love Island?
No, I'm not either. I did tune in on US Love Island this season.
Yeah, the last US season was great.
Had a little bit more energy, and I enjoyed that. So I think there is this thing that you're talking about of people coming to these places and having their things to promote, and it starts to feel very cynical. And I think that's the piece that is it. I crave good producing. I crave it's not that like I'm opposed to people coming in with an ulterior motive. What it is I am still in it for the romance. You're talking to a romance novelist, a romance fan, a romance director.
Sure.
And so when I'm coming here, I want to be taken on a journey. And I think what I'm struggling with this season is I didn't get what was promised. I did get to see Jen go on a journey, which
they took things from me.
I feel like Jen did go on a journey, and she does seem like such a authentic person. Like I believe her when she says that she's had issues in the past with emotionally unavailable men, and then watching somebody like that play out that pattern again in real time is like watching a slow train crash. But I feel like
it is
learned the lesson.
It's also a relatable train crash. I'm like, I know the emotionally unavailable man is pretty common in the wild.
Yeah, we've seen his kind, and I've been drawn,
oh yes.
and I felt like when was it the Hawaii episode with Fantasy Suites? It felt like she finally learned that lesson with Marcus, and it was nice to watch it. I wish she had learned that lesson a little sooner, and we could have had like Jonathan go a little bit further.
100%.
But alas, that's not always how life works, and I feel like we watched a real person go on a journey with her whole humanity on her sleeve, right? She has her flaws, she has her romanticism, and she's also kind of in this impossible task of acting as a symbol for every Asian American woman,
Yes.
even Bachelor Nation. Like, that's an impossible mantle for her to carry, and yet I think she did it so well. And then at the end of that, to watch her kind of get betrayed in a way, I think, by the producers, because I almost didn't watch the Men Tell All.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because they usually bring back all these guys that you've coached that I don't want to hear from again. But
I don't want to hear from them.
But I was grateful for it because one of them said this thing where he was like, well, we all thought it was going to be Maria or Daisy.
Yeah.
And there was this moment of like, whoa, wait. And then it kind of became this thing of, okay, the producers did fuck up then, because I think there is this duty of care that they talk about in Love Island UK more so, but I feel like there is a duty of care that we owe to these contestants, and especially to your protagonist, to your heroine, Jen. And I think if they had changed The Bachelorette to anybody, they should have taken another look at these people. And I wonder what sort of questions they asked them. Like, is there any world where they asked them, like, it could be any of these 5 women, and who would you be most interested in?
That is asked in the casting process. They say, who are you excited about from the prior season? But every incoming player just shotguns it. Top 6 from last season. You say that every time. None of these guys knew it was going to be Jen. They all thought it was going to be Maria. They were told it was going to be Maria. It was Maria for 2 days. She bailed out, and they just used the same guys, basically. And the kind of duty of care that you're talking about, 2 executive producers from The Bachelor, Bennett Graebner and Claire Freeland, gave a huge LA Times interview right before Jen Tran's season came out, but post-shooting the whole season, so they knew how it ended. And yet they go into the LA Times, they give this whole long interview about how Matt James, the first Black Bachelor in season 25, they know they did him wrong. It'll never happen again. They've got Jen's back. And then the season airs. And that final moment that we were talking about where they showed the proposal after they had her go through those 2 hot seats is exactly what you're saying. It's a betrayal of her, of Bachelor Nation, of the whole thing. But the show's kind of MO is like, turn the page. Golden Bachelorette premieres this Wednesday.
Right. And that was brutal to watch. I like when they brought her on, I felt like we hadn't really handled this all because, and I hate to, there's this thing where when you grow up, receiving a lot of messaging that like the all-American girl next door does not look like you. Like when people are picturing a certain thing, they're picturing something else that's not you. There is this feeling of like, okay, then I am not their first choice. And so I do feel like a lot of Asian American women watching this season of The Bachelorette got triggered as fuck by that finale, myself included.
How could you not? Like, I mean, they didn't have to include those comments about Daisy and Maria in it at all. They could have cut that from the Men Tell All. They could have cut it from the Sam M radio episode.
But I am glad that they included it because I think it is a dialogue that needs to happen. And it's like you'd rather people say it to your face, right? Because otherwise sometimes it feels like it's in your head and that's what makes you crazy.
Interesting.
I love your use of the word protagonist to describe the lead. Because I guess I never really had thought about it that way. We usually talk about it like protect your lead. And they didn't protect Jen in like any aspect of this season. I mean, like, I guess great. Ultimately she's the hero. Look, they aesthetically,
like
she slayed.
Wardrobe, makeup, hair on point. Firing on
Loved the wardrobe. Loved that white fur stole over the white gown.
Oh, that was such a good one. I wanted to like touch it.
Right? But I'm not sure if you knew about this as well, but Marcus had a bunch of allegations against him by women.
No.
So it's like they didn't protect her in the casting process with that either. I mean, they didn't protect whoever it would have been, Daisy and Maria as well. It's like he shouldn't have been cast at all for anyone.
Yeah.
But I do think they should think of it as a protagonist, because it's like that is the person that you want to root for. It's mostly women who are watching this show. They're putting themselves in the spot of Jen, and they are seeing all their past relationships and experiences reflected in the people that she's dating.
Right.
For better or worse.
Well, Yulin, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody out there, please go check out her book, How to End a Love Story. And when is Beach Read coming out? When will the movie be out? 2 years? A year?
Who knows? It's in development right now. So
okay. Well, no, congrats on the year you've had. It's obviously been insane. I have one more question, if I may. What was it like to get on Reese Witherspoon's book club? What was that moment like when you found out you were going to be on it?
Oh, it was a great moment. It was in my emails. But it felt
That's
like,
so
you know,
cool.
There's this scene in Legally Blonde where Elle Woods walks up to the bulletin board and she sees her name on the list. It felt like that. Just watch Legally Blonde.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Like, yes.
I just watched a Reese Witherspoon being interviewed about the scene where she is confronting the guy that she breaks up with,
Warner.
And is like, "Oh, you weren't going to pick me anyway." Yeah, Warner. Like, "Oh, I was never going to be good enough for you." And it's just like, it's such a good movie.
It's basically
it's so
a perfect movie.
I mean, and that's tying it back to The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, right? Like, you were never going to pick me. There's something there. I think it's
with Devin
thing and pick me, choose me, love me.
That's why I brought it up, because Jen reposted it today.
Oh, did she?
Oh, wow.
Oh.
I didn't even remember how I got into that. Wow.
It's just seeping into your sphere. But no, sincerely, thanks for joining us. We're excited to see your movie when it comes out. Whenever it comes out, we're going to be waiting for it. And again, everybody check out How to End a Love Story. Are you on social
media? Where can people follow your journey?
My journey? My journey is mostly on Instagram these days, although I'm really like reevaluating how much I want to be there and like how I want to use that platform these days. There's so many think pieces out there about how social media isn't fun anymore, and I'm like, is social media for joy? I'm gonna like try and eat that out a little bit more. You know, we're talking about all these people who are going on the Bachelor.
No, it's not for joy.
5 million
it's for
Instagram
advertising.
Followers. Does that give them joy, or does that give them money, which gives them opportunities to chase joy? You know, so I'm for everybody doing what brings them bliss. Anyway, follow me on Instagram.
Give her some opportunities to pursue joy. Follow her on Instagram.
Well, thank you. It was an absolute pleasure.
It's at Yulin.Kuang, YULIN.KUANG. Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you guys too.
Absolutely. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks for joining us.
Please rate this podcast. Please review this podcast. Please get a friend to listen to us. And then please rate this podcast. Please review this podcast.